aware that some of these concerns could last until tomorrow morning. This is for the mountains especially. The upstate should actually improve a lot more late today. The system is huge. I mean, it's stretching from the Gulf Coast all the way up through the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. As far as our area is concerned, most of us are just seeing spotty light rain, but you can see these downpours are building off to our west. That's coming our way for the next few hours, and you might even hear a rumble of thunder. But those colder spots already at that freezing mark throughout the mountains come down currently what looks like rain, but could be freezing on contact with the surface. So it's still wet in most areas, but we're seeing that transition over to the pink on the map since the last few hours, which means it's more and more likely in the next few hours to see those icy conditions develop. Again, well-traveled roadways may be okay for a little while longer, but we're still watching especially those side roads, the higher elevation bridges and overpasses, and tree branches, roofs of cars. Everything could start turning a little bit icy in these mountains. And we're even seeing a few spots of pink now developing in parts of the upstate, the Highland area of Greenville County, and just west of the Taylors area, seeing a little bit of a mix. This is more so sleet coming down with rain. We're not so much seeing temperatures at freezing at the surface in the upstate, but you might hear those little pellets of ice kind of bouncing off your roof of your car or maybe off your windows at times in the upstate as this rain gets heavier. The ice potential to really become a coating is most of a risk in western North Carolina from Waynesville and Cullowhee and Silva on eastward. Brevard, Hendersonville, Asheville seeing this. Lake Laura and Marion all seeing this. Those in the lighter shading pink areas, including the northern upstate, it's more of a brief freezing rain or sleet, kind of mixed with rain, so less of a threat for widespread issues, but still a concern for a patch or two of ice. And here's the other issue today. Rain will get very heavy by about 6 a.m. So we're looking at the day total of rainfall to be upwards of 3/4 of an inch to over an inch, which means we could see ponding on roadways. And Futurecast really shows some of that heavier rain developing through about 6 a.m., lasting through most of the morning, just slamming us with rainfall. And again, like I mentioned, as the rain gets heavier and the mountains continue seeing ice develop, parts of the upstate could hear that sleet come down mixed with the rain as those heavier pockets move through. So that's going to be what we look for through the morning. 9 a.m. still dealing with downpours. Midday still seeing some of that. The late afternoon it drops back to just some spotty lighter drizzle, but it's still going to be out there. And any rain in the mountains especially that doesn't really dry out will refreeze tonight, and there will be some thunderstorm potential with stronger weather down toward the Midlands and the coast. So we're not going to see a severe threat today, but other areas nearby will. It'll finally clear out late tonight, which means we'll have drier conditions for tomorrow. But icy roads are likely in the mountains this morning. We're looking at patchy slick spots for the northern upstate and then just wet roads from city center of Greenville and Spartanburg on southward. So less of a threat the farther south you go. Here's a look at that severe weather threat. It skirts by Columbia and moves down toward the coast in the low country, Savannah included in that today. For us, it's mostly about these temperatures. It's in the 30s right now, and it's going to stay in the 30s for basically the entire day. It's at freezing in the mountains, which means the ice is already starting to develop. We'll have a cold rain with wind for most of the upstate today, highs in the upper 30s. But again, those higher elevations could still see some patchy slick spots. The mountains, you're looking at icy spots almost all day, highs in the upper 30s there. Rating the day, it's just not great. We're going to call it a 2 out of 10 on the Carolina Sky Meter. And then after today, we begin to see some improvement. Concern for ice stretches from the mountains into the northern upstate this morning with significant ice possible in the higher terrain. This is all from freezing rain that's starting to come down. While the upstate mainly will see plain rain, at times there could be a little sleet or freezing rain mixed in, which means spotty areas could turn icy. These warnings for the mountains and advisories will go into effect from today through tomorrow morning. The upstate, however, it's just today that has that concern. The system is widespread. It's been dumping down rainfall through the overnight, so roads are already wet everywhere. But these spots that are now down to freezing are coming in showing pink on the radar map. And while it's going to look like rain falling, that higher elevation region, all the way down to about Hendersonville, Tryon areas, are seeing the potential for it to freeze on contact. So while everything is kind of soaked right now and it might take a little time to turn over, it is likely to turn icy throughout many of the central and and eastern mountains. Small pockets of the northern upstate close to the highlands area are also beginning to see some colder temperatures. Some sleet may mix in with the rain. You might even see a small glaze of ice on tree branches there. It's much less of a threat for the upstate, so we might see some patchy areas of slick conditions in the far northern upstate, but it's really those icy roads throughout the mountains that are the most concerned today. Far to the south, wet roads, and I'm talking soaked areas with downpours expected over the next few hours will come through. In total today, we could see upwards of 3/4 to even over an inch of rainfall, so that creates that ponding on the roads. The mountain iciness will continue for the next several hours at least. But look at this line of rain and thunderstorms that's on its way. This comes through 6, 7, 8, even 9 o'clock this morning, dealing with these major downpours. So even for areas not seeing iciness, the major rain will slow you down as you get outside today. Mountains should begin to see the iciness taper off by about midday. We all still hold on to a few showers by the afternoon, and with temperatures in the upper 30s, it's just going to be a cold, windy and rainy day until it finally clears out tonight. The storms we see this morning could turn severe as they move toward the Midlands, the coast, and down toward areas of Georgia's coastline. So we're not at risk for severe weather today, but we are at risk of iciness. It's 32 degrees in Rutherfordton, Hendersonville, Brevard, and Waynesville. Asheville jumped up to 33. That's good news. Anytime we get above freezing, that's good news, but it was at freezing for the last several hours there, so still be cautious of ice. The upstate, again, above freezing, 34 for Gaffney and Spartanburg, so not as much of a threat. But as the wind continues building in from the northeast at 5 to 15 miles per hour, it's going to keep a chill in the air all day. So we're going to have a cold rain and wind for the upstate with a high of 39 degrees. Yikes, that's cold. The mountains are looking at icy spots in the high peaks basically all day long. Main areas should get to about 37, meaning you should have less of an ice threat, but still and out to the Charlotte airport. So there's a lot just kind of happening for everybody in the southeast right now, whether you're dealing with iciness like the mountains or heavy rain on the way. The system itself is huge. It is stretching from the Gulf Coast all the way up to the mid-Atlantic and even the Northeast.
Yeah, so this system is no joke that we are dealing with just because our temperatures are below freezing across western North Carolina. Already seeing some of that freezing rain starting to accumulate a little bit out on the grassy surfaces, your car.
And as we continue to watch the sleet, the ice, and the rain come down across the Carolinas, I'll detail what you can expect with team coverage coming up. State so far, that's good news. It may not be the case all morning. It's just after 6:10 now, and we are watching this winter weather advisory for the central areas of Greenville, Spartanburg, Cherokee counties, Pickens County, and over into parts of Oconee County areas. This advisory goes through the day today.
Area that we're going to see the more significant ice accumulation as freezing rain continues to be a problem. And also we've been having some reports of hearing some rumbles of thunder across northern western North Carolina as well.
Yeah, it's an intense system. We're not seeing severe weather, but the ice concern is out there. We could see up to about 1/4 inch of ice accumulation on some higher elevation areas, about 1/10 of an inch elsewhere. But this is really surrounding Hendersonville, Brevard, Waynesville, Asheville, the Marion area, all under this risk right now.
Right, and any ice at all is just bad. So it's going to be creating some very treacherous travel conditions, especially across western North Carolina, where we do have those windy roads. And temperatures are favoring that ice right now in Brevard, Hendersonville, and Rutherfordton as we're at freezing. The good news is we're slightly above freezing in the upstate, but still we're going to have to watch out for a few pockets of that freezing rain to develop.
Yeah, borderline conditions. When you get down to about 34 or so, it could drop really in moments notice. So we're really watching for that in the far northern upstate, and that's why there's a winter weather advisory in place here. It goes for the day today, but again, it's going to be very spotty. The mountains, that's where the significant concern comes through, and we're really looking at issues all the way through tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
And with temperatures holding just above freezing, the upstate is no longer under an ice threat, but the mountains could still see some significant winter concerns. We'll talk about the latest information.
That would create ice, but in western North Carolina, it's still a different story.
Yeah, we have seen, in the forecast for this, it was already a borderline event here, so we're not really surprised to see that advisory has been lifted. The mountains, though, we're going to watch very significantly over the next couple of hours and likely even through tomorrow morning in spots, as the ice from this morning could melt during the day and then refreeze again.
Right, but still this morning we could be
roads across the upstate this morning. Rain totals could be in excess of a full inch today in spots. The far southern upstate looks to see the worst of it. We could see an additional half to 3/4 of an inch of rain in the upstate and the mountains today. And the mountains, again, some of that rain will freeze, but it's still coming down out there this morning. Futurecast shows the heaviest rain continuing to move in from 6 to 7 to 8 o'clock this morning. And look at this. Pockets of ice are still possible in the far northeastern upstate, but that again would just be the higher elevations right along the state line. This is not looking like a big ice event in the upstate, but the heavy rain continues through late morning. It tapers off for the afternoon, and then tonight it should dry out for the most part. There's some good news here, but the mountains could continue to see some snow potential into the late overnight. As the system pushes east, it will bring a severe weather threat. We have some thunderstorms happening now. Nothing severe. It's too cold for that. This atmosphere is just not supporting that at this moment. But as the system moves to the south and east, it could provide some stronger weather down towards Savannah or areas near Hilton Head. Locally, temperatures in the upstate are above freezing, mid and upper 30s. So it is a cold rain out there, but it's not creating signs of concern for iciness. The mountains right around that freezing mark, so we'll continue to watch that. And here's the wind. It's pumping in from the north and east, keeping that chill in the air today. So unfortunately, with a 5 to 15 mile per hour wind speed, we're in for cold and rainy conditions for most of the day.
So we are going to continue to see this ice threat holding for these next few hours across the mountains. For the upstate, it's just a lot of rain coming down at once, so we have to watch out for ponding. So regardless if your kid has school or not, for the upstate or western North Carolina, if you are watching us from the mountains, you're going to need the winter gear this morning, and watch out for the ice threat. For the upstate, the rain gear is needed.
Yeah, we're also hearing some rumbles of thunder outside, so you're not hearing things if you think you're like, oh, is there a thunderstorm? There really is. We're watching near Easley and Pickens, northern Greenville County, TR area, also seeing some thunder activity. So these downpours are going to be intense at times, and we have been watching the far northern upstate edges for a little bit of maybe sleet mixing in. Freezing rain, not as much of a threat because the surface temperatures are mild enough in the 30s. It's not seeing a big concern, but look at these, right at freezing for some mountain towns.
Right. So right now in Hendersonville and Brevard, we're at that freezing point, slightly above that in Asheville, Rutherfordton, even into Gaffney and Spartanburg. So we're right there, borderline, that we could see a little bit of some sleet, that ping pong effect, or a little bit of that freezing rain. But that freezing rain, the ice concern, is going to be favoring the mountains for this morning.
That's why there's a winter storm warning there that goes through the day today. And with refreeze potential tonight and some high elevation snow, some of this could last till tomorrow morning. We want to talk about the roads, though. Chris, how are you looking? Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, we do keep watching this winter storm warning that's in place through tomorrow morning for some of our mountains for significant iciness possible. Now, we haven't seen too many issues on roads yet. This is really good news. We do, though, have temperatures that are at the freezing mark in many of these mountain locations, which means as this widespread system of rain and iciness come through, we continue to hold on to some of those threats. And the threats are changing a little bit, even though they're adjusting and the upstate is no longer a major threat. We do still have some spots of sleet and even snowfall coming down in parts of the northern upstate. So we're going to watch this all very closely. Obviously, the bigger story for the upstate is major rainfall. We're seeing widespread iciness and mountain snowfall. Those in the higher elevations seeing just snow. You get toward Asheville and you've got rain coming down with temperatures in the city above freezing. It looks fine, but surrounding the city, all these areas of pink are showing some signs of freezing conditions. Now, focusing on the upstate, look at this, a pocket of sleet or snow kind of mixing with the rain there north of Easley. So dealing with that as some of the heavier rain comes down. We're also seeing lightning and thunder from Highlands up toward Fingerville now. And in some of these pockets of heavy rain, like what's happening in Easley, that heavy rain can actually pull down a column of cold air, which allows for a brief pocket of sleet or snow to kind of mix in with our rainfall. Luckily, ground temperatures are warm enough to not cause a big concern, but the ice potential does grow through the morning in western North Carolina. Now, the far northern upstate again still has a small chance of some slick conditions, but it's such a small potential there. We're not causing a big issue. The bigger concern, though, is from Waynesville to Brevard, Hendersonville, Asheville, and on eastward. These are areas that could see accumulating ice to the point of causing major slick conditions, possibly some power concerns. We've actually seen power outages already beginning. of sleet, nothing really on the ground as far as wintry weather, which is great news. But the concern still continues for numerous mountain areas.
Absolutely, because this widespread area of low pressure is currently moving across the southeast and impacting our region. Right now, we have some freezing rain reports in places like Asheville down to Hendersonville. But across northern portions of the upstate, we are going to have to watch out for a little bit of sleet, even a freezing rain mix.
Yeah, and what we've talked about is how the ground temperatures are warm enough that we are not seeing a big concern. But you look at places like Pickens and nearing Easley, and there's a little burst of sleet and snow mixing in with the rain. You might see it coming down around you, but it will not lay on the ground. It is merely just the mountains and mostly the higher elevations there that are seeing the ice accumulate.
Right, and so we have to watch out for ponding with the areas that are just seeing all the rain throughout the upstate. Already having a few reports of some thunderstorm development, nothing severe, but we do have a few of those reports coming in to us across Greenville County, even into Asheville. They had a report of a thunderstorm, but we are going to have to watch out for these temperatures as they're very borderline freezing.
They are. 34 degrees in Spartanburg still is a time to be on alert. Even though it's not a huge threat, it's something that could maybe just north of the city get cold enough to have some icy spots. Waynesville, Brevard, Hendersonville, even Rutherfordton kind of fluctuating between freezing and just above freezing at times. This creates concern for the rest of the morning.
It really does. The ice concern is going to be there throughout the morning hours, and that's why the mountains are still under that winter storm warning. The good news is the upstate, those winter weather advisories have been canceled. So we are just going to have to watch out really for that soggy weather today.
And we're going to talk to Chris now about your roadways.